Hey, and welcome to another episode of Medicine Mondays. I am yours truly, Dr. Pierre, your favorite board certified internist, host of Medicine Mondays, the Empower Yourself for Better Health series, as well as our other YouTube channel, Dr. Pierre's Health Checks. And today we are going to bring you an episode really giving an update on the Delta variant of COVID-19. What have we learned pretty much since the last time we discussed this? If you have not caught the most recent episode, I think it was at the end of June. I'll put a link in the description, throw the link up here as well too. We talked about what the Delta variant was. We gave our concerns at the time, especially for our lunch and learn community. And unfortunately, a lot of our concerns have kind of come into fruition. And now I have to really give an update because clearly, times have changed. And it seems like it's been, again, like months and months ago. But again, we're talking about a less than a 2-month span since the last time we discussed. And so much has changed, right? So I think first, again, if you have not watch the last episode, make sure you watch that last episode just so you can get an idea of what the Delta variant is, what are some of the differences between the Delta variant and kind of the original strains that are out beforehand, because we won't do too much of that during this video. This one is just more of like, hey, what's happening now? So let's give some numbers so we can kind of get some clear-cut differences of what's happening now versus before, right? So let's talk about the total number of cases since the last time we talked. Right now, we have 35.8 million total cases here in the United States with about 617,000 deaths, right? And that number, unfortunately, is going in the wrong direction from when we first reported it. At the time, it was about 32.6 million total cases with about 603,000 deaths, right? So as you can see, needle moving wrong direction, right? So let's talk about worldwide. At the time when we recorded before, it was only 180 million cases worldwide. That number has ballooned up to 203 million total cases here worldwide as far as COVID. And as far as deaths, it went from 3.89 million deaths to about 4.3 million deaths. Again, we're talking about a span in less than like a month and a half. So things have unfortunately revved up to the point where, alarms have been blaring. If you just happen to catch the Olympics, you might have noticed that there were no fans there, right? Why were there no fans? Because the COVID variant has essentially shut down and caused quarantine restriction to kind of come back. I've talked to kind of friends across the world, and they're talking about how some of the restrictions and lockdowns and quarantines are coming right back like it was last summer. And think about that, right? We thought we had gotten over the worst of the worst as far as kind of this pandemic is concerned. And here we are going through, again, if you had to count, probably like our third or fourth wave of the coronavirus. And this Delta variant has caused so much problems, right? Again, at the time when I recorded it before, the Delta variant was responsible for 1 in 5 of new cases of COVID-19 here in this country. That number's ballooned up to 80%. 8 out of 10 cases or 4 out of 5, is how you want to do it, of new cases of COVID-19 are directly attributable to the Delta variant. And what has that done? Again, when we talked before, we talked about the CDC recommendations and some of my concerns, because at the time CDC was saying, hey, you know what? If you're vaccinated, you're protected, you can go ahead and walk around with no mask. They have had to backtrack that because, and again, and I know a lot of people were jumping at them saying, yeah, see, the CDC doesn't know what they're talking about. It's not that they don't know what they're talking about. They just, again, were surprised, just like a lot of us, that the unvaccinated group we're going to also take their mask off, because remember, the CDC recommendations were for the vaccinated class, right? So, but unfortunately, especially here in this country, there is no honor system. So the unvaccinated weren't social distancing. The unvaccinated also weren't wearing their mask as well. So they weren't following the recommendation from the CDC. So unfortunately, now the group who is vaccinated has to go back wearing masks, right? It has to go back when you're indoors, have to be very strict on how long you stay within doors, having to be really stringent on kind of the social distancing back again, like we're in summer of 2020. Again, I didn't joke, but I said this, right? I said this beginning of the year. For those who may be thinking that 2021 was going to be the year that we don't have to worry about the COVID-19, I said, like, let's hold your horses. Let's kind of, again, I never thought that we would get quote unquote back to normal until 2022. But honestly, I'll be honest, I thought it was probably going to be early 22, but now it's looking like it's probably going to be mid to late 2022 if we're going to return to some sense of normalcy. That's how significant this Delta variant has been to really across the world, but especially here in the United States. And what's been really concerning, right? And what's been a concern of ours that we've always thought from the beginning, that as time progresses, especially with these viruses, especially as one as significant as COVID-19, we knew that these variants were going to come. We knew mutations were going to arise. And the problem with mutations, especially when it comes to from a viral nature, is that they always get smarter. So we know that the Delta variant is more contagious. We know patients are much more symptomatic. We know that the transmission rate is much quicker, and symptomatology rate happens a lot faster than it did with the original strain. So all of these things bode as significant problems, because all across the country, if you take a look, especially on a lot of my social media feeds, I'm making sure to highlight a lot of the places across the country that are now kind of seeing, I'd say like March, April, May, like of 2020 times in the ER, in the hospital setting. We have elective surgeries being canceled again. We have visitation, policies being rescinded again. Like all of these things, again, it's almost like we did not learn our lesson the first time, right? And that, I think, is the most concerning aspect, because like when I talk about, like, again, just to give you an idea, again, I love the numbers. At the time I recorded it, again, June 30th, when I recorded our initial, the amount of new cases from a 7-day average was about 12,000, right? Like I'm being, let's say close to 12 to 13,000. Right now, as I record this, that number has ballooned up to 100,000. 100,000 new cases in a 7-day average now than what it was, again, in the end of June. Like we are significantly going in the wrong direction. And like, I don't think, because I want to make sure, people are aware of this. I don't think we're going to close down again. I don't think we're ever going to close down again. I think big businesses, again, I've said this before, I think big businesses and the government's not going to allow us to get to that point. But more importantly, I don't think we're going to close down again, because we now have a treatment. We have vaccines out there. And because, again, let's just give the numbers of people who've been vaccinated so far. Right now, here in the United States, 166 million people are fully vaccinated. That's about 50% of the country, with 194 million people receiving at least one dose of the vaccine, with a total of about 351 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine given out, right? And those numbers, like this is stark difference. Again, June 30th, 150 million at the time when I first recorded it, fully vaccinated. Now it's 166. 177 million at the time. Now it's 194, got at least one dose, and 320 million. So we got about 30 million doses of vaccine given out since that time frame. And the reason why is because now we're seeing, when we look at the hospital records, when we're looking at kind of the stats that are happening now, that if you are vaccinated, yes, you can still be a carrier, right? Which unfortunately was not as significant a concern in the original strain, but it's still helping you avoid seeing people like me in the hospital. 98% of the cases, 97, 98, depending on where you're looking at, of the cases, and sometimes even higher, close to the 99, right, of the cases that are ending up in the hospital and dying are non-vaccinated patients, right? Like, so like that is, if that doesn't scream like help, I don't know what is, right? And let's just, I just want to kind of give see if we can get some quick numbers for you guys. Because again, like, I love, I love the numbers, right? Because again, that's just one of those things. Again, like I said, 97% of hospital patients, COVID-19, are unvaccinated. 97%, guys. So if you did not need more evidence to show that the importance and the protection that vaccines have provided, I don't know what will. Right, you're going to see, again, I follow plenty of the side of I'm not vaccinated. I follow plenty of those on my social media platforms, and it's interesting, like some of the arguments I'm seeing being made now, right? People are like, oh, you see, I told you getting the vaccine didn't matter. You could still get COVID-19. One, and again, if you're part of the lunch learning community, we've talked about this before. Getting the COVID-19 vaccine does not preclude you from ever picking up COVID-19. I'm not sure where that storyline or that rhetoric came from. Like, no, getting the vaccine is not a silver bullet against never getting it. What has been and has always been, again, that's what I've always preached, is that it significantly reduces your chance for seeing someone like me in the hospital, because that's really the issue. Getting COVID-19 isn't the issue. It's getting COVID-19, getting so sick from COVID-19 that you end up having to see me in the hospital setting, or you end up having to see your primary care physician, right? Because of all of the significant, illnesses that you develop following, right? Like, that's always been the caveat. So when I see these storylines of people posting and saying like, oh, see, I told you, like, there was no plan to get a vaccine, you still got COVID-19. Clearly, again, the numbers say it itself, right? Those who are hospitalized, again, 97% of those patients are unvaccinated. So clearly this vaccine is doing an amazing job at making sure you don't end up in the hospital like myself, right? And you're seeing this term a lot now, this breakthrough cases, right? There's no such thing, again, as breakthrough cases. Why? Because if you understand the premise that these vaccines' primary job was never to prevent you from getting, diagnosed with COVID. Once you understand that was never the intent, it was going to be almost impossible, right? Clearly, it was going to be impossible to say, like, you take this vaccine and you'll never get it. And for those who, especially we talk about the flu a lot, those who've gotten the flu shot and still gotten the flu in the past, it's kind of the same premise. The goal is you get that shot, flu, COVID, whatever that vaccine is, and then you don't get as sick if you run into disease. That's always been, the onus, right, of the vaccine and protecting yourself. So again, I caution those who, especially I want to talk to those who may still not be vaccinated, right? For, a slew of reasons, right? Maybe you're still not vaccinated now. Understand that the Delta variant, understand that these increased number of cases, increased numbers of death, a significant portion is due to the fact that people who are not vaccinated were still able to pass it around. Like, don't think that this Delta variant came just out of thin air. No, it came because it was able to continue to multiply and spread amongst those who were not protected. And that's why so many who are not protected are now ending up in a hospital. Right. So again, that's really my discussion, right? Again, I didn't want to again, belabor, the point, right? Like, here, Delta variant, unfortunately, has all of our outlying concerns that we thought may occur if this Delta variant goes the route it goes have come to fruition, right? It causes much more people to get sick. It causes much more people to be sicker quicker, right? Our hospitals are filling up again. Our ICUs are filling up again. They're closing down, the elective surgeries. They're closing down. Like, again, I don't think that because you don't see businesses closing around you again, that the hospitals and the healthcare staff and all of those who are really on the front lines taking care of this thing aren't feeling the effects, right? Again, I'm in Florida, so that should say enough. I'm in the state of Florida where our government, again, they're going as far as saying a school is not even allowed to enforce a mask mandate. Mind you, the same type of schools that are allowed to enforce the type of hairstyle, right? That are allowed to enforce the type of clothes you wear, right? But all of a sudden, they're making it almost a mandate to say, no, you can't enforce a mask mandate. That is how against the science, our government and our politics have come into fruition, right? Like, it boggles my mind. Best believe my kids will be going to school with a mask. And again, if it comes to fruition, we have to pull them out. We'll pull them out as well too, because again, the kids' safety, it is what it is. Because this, and I'm glad I want to end on the kids aspect of children, because at least at this point, at the time I'm recording this, right now the vaccine's only eligible for those 12 and older. right? And, so a lot of the questions I'm getting is, hey, when do you think kids younger than the age of 12 will be able to get the vaccine? And I know at this time, especially with Pfizer and both Moderna, they're both kind of doing sub-studies to kind of look at a younger population, a particular 5 to 12, for obviously safety risk, and making sure that, the vaccine, depending on how much of the vaccine can it get? Is it a lower dose? Is it the same dose? All these questions really need to be answered before they can say, yes, if you're between ages of 5 to 12, you can get it, right? So that information is coming. It's not here yet. So it's not available for them yet. So again, if you're a parent watching this, listening to this, again, I would implore you, make sure your kids are wearing their masks, make sure they're social distance as much as they can, encourage their teachers to do so as well. Likely, and be honest, likely if the teachers are already doing it, because again, the teachers are in the line of fire, just like my service clerks at the grocery stores, at the fast food restaurants, at the general restaurants, in the hospital. We're all on the front lines of this COVID, and the public is coming to us, right? And the public has come to us, putting us at risk. So we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our families. And that's kind of what we're doing. And that's what I kind of implore. So again, I am yours truly, Dr. Pierre. Thank you for coming to this episode of Medicine Mondays. I'll see you guys next week.